others as the NBA finds itself smack dab right in the middle of another cultural flashpoint in America. We welcome you inside Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Everybody joining us this morning on the Goodyear hotline. Key, I'll just set it up real quick. The Mavericks had stopped playing the national anthem before games. And Jay, this is a word you've used on the show a couple of times, and you know how much of a lightning rod this word can be, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. That word, of course, is cancel. It's a very strong word in American society. Today, Mark Cuban went out of his way to say they did not, quote, cancel the national anthem, but the NBA essentially said, look, we got rules, we got long-standing policies that this will be played before every game, and that goes for every squad. We'll dig into it. The Mavericks are at the center of it all, but first, from what you heard from Mark Cuban, it just sort of reiterated your admiration for Cuban.
Yeah, think about it, though. How long this season, the start of this season to where we are today, had they not played? And you didn't even notice. Nobody even noticed it. It was kind of like, okay, but then as soon as somebody raises it, it becomes this big old problem. And like Mark Cuban said, because I never really thought about it until Jay said it last night on our call. You know, we don't play the national anthem for many things. Like when we start our show, do we stand up and play the national anthem before the start of our show? But I guess we're supposed to do that too. Like, it's just where this thing was and where it's at today is some of the wildest things that you can only imagine in American society, in the way we think. And, you know, it's like, as long as it appeases the money people, they'll do it. They'll do whatever it takes to keep the money rolling.
And you know what's crazy, Key? Before you even give opinions like that, you have to be careful. You have to couch opinions, because you have to preface everything by saying, I am a patriot. I do love my country. I know, but I'm just saying, what people want you to say, what, you don't love your country? What, you don't respect the people that have passed away in war? So, like, my thing is, I always love providing context for things like this. Let's go back to one of the main reasons why the national anthem was inserted into sporting venues, right back towards World War I, World War II. It was used as recruiting. It was used as advertising for armies, for our army, right, to recruit people. And look, it is something that is patriotic. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not used at any other mass cultural events, right? Before you go to, when you have a concert, you go to a concert, thousands of people congregate for a concert. Do they start off by saying, hey, play the national anthem?
I've never, many concerts I've been to, I don't think I've ever seen it happen.
I watch CNBC every morning. Squawk Box. Like, before the market starts, do they play the national anthem? No. Like, so it doesn't mean because he's not playing a national anthem with no fans in the crowd that he's less patriotic. I just don't understand the reasoning to that. I think the national anthem means different things to different people. And obviously, the words of the national anthem can affect people differently because we've gone through this learning curve about it. So now the conversation needs to start. If it doesn't fit towards what you deem it to be, if you're the employer, do you have the right to do that?
Well, I would think you do, if it doesn't fit for you in what it is that you're looking for, right? If you're not comfortable with it, I think you should have the option to do what it is that you want to do. I mean, it's too many times no matter where you are, people try to force you to do something that you're not willing to do, which is ridiculous to me.
Adam Silver's in a really tough situation here. I'm going to look at this differently than you guys. You guys are looking at it from the actual micro. Should this happen before this? I'm going to look at it from a more macro situation. And this is where Silver's in a really difficult position. You got to think about it like this. When the NBA said we have to have 8 players to play in a game this year, I think most people felt like, oh, that must be a coronavirus rule. You got to have 8 guys. You got to have your G League guy ready. Everybody's dropping like flies, contact tracing. No, it's a long-standing NBA rule that if you don't have 8 players, this was put in the bylaws way before the coronavirus hit, that you cannot play in a game. You need to have 8 players. I think what Silver is doing is he's doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So in the bubble, he did all of the right things, right? The first thing he did when he got the job, Sterling's got to go. I don't care what's in there. It's the morally right thing to do. He's out. Guys want to protest Jacob Blake. That's absolutely right. It's a players' league. It's their league. And then I'm going to support them to the hilt.
But by the way, I just want to jump in for 1 second. I'm sorry for interrupting, but it is also written in the bylaws of the CBA that you cannot protest the national anthem, right? Like they didn't, and that's something that wasn't in the bylaws of the CBA for the NFL. You didn't see players protest the national. They may have kneeled, right, in their way of doing it, but they didn't. They had to be on the court. They had to respect that, or they would be fined. Just wanted to preface that.
Yeah, fair enough. But I think what Silver is doing is saying, I'm going to interpret the rules the way I need to. I'm going to do this with Silver and Sterling. I know people will back me. And I'm going to do this with Jacob Blake because I know people will back me. But when I need to run to the rule book and say everybody needs to stand, I'm going to run to the rule book. I just think that he's a player's guy. People love him.
Yeah.
But I do think that either you're going to abide by the rules that are in the bylaws or you're not. He's kind of in a murky area where he's sticking his finger up in the air, seeing which way the wind blows, and making those sorts of decisions. And that's partially why he's been liked so much. He has taken the players' input in. He's listening to the fans. He's by far the most popular commissioner of the four. But I think he's in one of those situations where when he has to do something and the rule book says it and it aids him, he goes to it. And then sometimes he goes off the page. I think you have to be consistent in your actions.
So why did they not play it over the last several weeks or month or so since the NBA season started?
Yeah, I mean, that's a Cuban call, though, right? He essentially said that's a Cuban call.
Yeah, but nobody said anything, though. Nobody said anything.
13 games.
13 games, nobody said nothing. Everything was fine, right? Nobody said anything. It wasn't that big of a deal.
What would you say to people that say Silver looks at what's going on with the leagues right now? He walks into his bathroom, opens up the toilet, and sees the ratings in there. And then he realizes what's going on. And maybe, what do you say to those people that say that this is a preemptive move to make sure? Because if I've been to an NBA game, you've been to a lot of NBA games. Crowd is 95% white at an NBA game. Almost any arena, maybe the Bay Area. Most arenas are full of white fans. And if there is a cultural flashpoint here, is there anything to the notion that Silver is saying, right now, we are in a really bad spot. Once the virus passes, fans will be back, ratings will go up, interest will be up, as Jay's mentioned a million times before. Interest on social is already through the roof, but to many mainstream people, it's not there. Let me set a preemptive strike to make sure that our core fans, our season ticket holders, those people that every year, no matter what, are plunking down thousands of dollars, no matter how bad the team is, 7 months before we play our next game when they get it in the mail, that those fans feel like this league is listening to them.
Well, I think that now you're trying to appease too many people.
That's what I'm saying with Silver. He's trying to go here and he's trying to go there. That's what I'm saying.
I know that's what you're saying, but I'm saying you're trying to appease too many people. If they don't want to watch the games and don't want to attend the games because you're not playing the national anthem, then maybe that's not for, maybe basketball in the NBA is not for you. Maybe because you feel that way, maybe you should pick another sport to enjoy and watch. But what I would say to that in terms of ratings, I'd like to see the ratings over the last 10 years, the second half after the All-Star break. Let me see what those ratings look like. Because when you're going up against the playoffs in football and all of those sort of things, your ratings are going to drop. Basketball season really does not get interested in to me until after the All-Star break, when it becomes a real playoff push. That's when I really dial in to watching as many games as possible on one night.
You see, Zubin, from a business perspective, I think Adam Silver did the right thing. I think that hey, look, we have to mandate this because right now we have to keep. Also, don't forget that 20% of players' salaries are kept in escrow right now, right? So there's a lot of things that deem if the NBA, hence why we're having an All-Star game, a one-day event, even in the midst of a pandemic, even when the league has been very progressive about their stances and games have been postponed. This is also about revenue and making sure that it puts the players and the owners at the best possible position when the season is over and said and done to renegotiate CBAs moving forward and to continue to create revenue. But I also say this one last thing is that the point was made. The point wasn't about, hey, let's change this for the way this year is going to happen. The point was about having a conversation. And don't think for 1 second that wasn't Mark Cuban's original intention.
I think Mark Cuban has done a tremendous job at getting that message out there, not just about this, but about other things as a whole.
There's no doubt about it. I think the other owners in the league kind of look at him and they're like, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed he's in the club because of some of the things that he's done. But I would also be honest with you, right?
No, I know. I'm just laughing because
the ownership group is a homogenous pool, and he's the outlier.
That's just how they are, though, man.
But to your point, the one thing I would say about him is he has so much money that if he feels like he needs to say something about the officials because it's adversely affecting his team, he needs to say something about the national anthem because he feels like it's an issue. He has to say something about the late, great David Stern or Adam Silver. He just reaches into the glove box of his car, and whatever the fine is, he's got it between the couch cushions. He's got it in the glove compartment, so he knows if he wants to make a stance and he's going to get fined, the fine is immaterial. It's much more important to say what he needs to say and then take a decimal point off of his